In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, I would like to welcome all of you students of today's lesson, which is going to be about Unit 5, Listen and Discuss. This is the beginning of a new unit, which is going to be about amazing animals. Amazing animals. And on pages 68 and 69. Let's see the objectives of today's lesson. Choose Coco's way in communication. Name a way humans can use to communicate with animals. Conclude the most interesting story. Match the name with the animal from the text. Point out Humphrey's position before becoming the Prime Minister's residence. And compare animals' qualities with human. As usual, we will revise the previous lesson. Okay, and we talked about the project, and I asked you to design a PowerPoint or poster, okay, doing what? Okay, after gathering information, of course, and making notes, okay, so you are going to select photos or drawing to put those in your poster, in your presentation, okay? So use your notes to make a poster or PowerPoint presentation for your class, okay? And of course, as I can see here, this is where you can use your notes, okay, to compare between name of desserts and snacks, as I said earlier, from, for example, from between Saudi Arabia and Syria or Lebanon, okay, or any other kind of countries that you would like, or origin you would like to differentiate between them or compare between them, okay? Now please open your book page 68. We have listen and discuss. Now let's start with number 1. In what ways are animals similar to humans? Do you think animals and humans are similar? Okay, and how are they different? How are they different? Number 2, do you think animals and humans can communicate, okay, with each other? If so, in what ways? So now we have two questions, two important questions before we start our lesson. The first one, in what ways are animals similar to human? Okay, this is the first one. And how are they different? In behave, attitude, or something like that. Nice. And do you think animals and humans can communicate? What does it mean to communicate? It means, for example, to speak a language or sometimes to understand each other in some way. Okay? If so, in what ways? Today, inshallah, mainly we are going to see and to answer these two questions here, okay, by seeing something very unique and that stories, okay, from the reality. Stories started from the reality. Now, look at this picture here. Can you recognize this one? I mean, this animal? Very good, okay. It's a groundhog. Nice, okay. Groundhog. And where you can find this one? Very good. Sometime inside rivers, okay, and it lives there actually, okay. Can you tell us the name of this animal, the groundhog? What's the name? It's called the Bankswani Phil, okay, Bankswani Phil. Very good. Let's see the second one here. This is, yeah, it's called gorilla, okay, gorilla. For example, here, when you see this picture, okay, you can see another creature, okay, and sometimes it is, or it communicates, okay, in some way. Inshallah, we are going to read about this one, okay. What's the name of this gorilla? Its name is Coco, for example, okay. Coco here, I'm talking about this one. Now, what about this? Yeah, nice, okay. We have a mouse, okay. we have a mouse. Here we have a mouse. The last one, what is this? This is a lion. Okay, this is a lion. Very good. Now, we are going to listen, okay, to an audio, okay, starting by telling stories about these animals to see how they are different from human and how they communicate with humans. Okay, so let's go back from this Pakistani here, Pakistani Phil. Okay, now we are going to listen to the audio. Please follow the audio and try to understand the story about this Pakistani Phil. Are you ready? Let's start.
Unit 5, Amazing Animals. Pages 68 and 69. 1. Listen and discuss.
Punxsutawney Phil is easily the most famous groundhog in the world. Phil lives in the small U.S. town of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and is cared for by the townspeople. However, every February 2nd, Phil is placed in the ground at Cobbler's Knob, where he carries on a tradition that is over 100 years old. Many people believe the length of the winter can be predicted on this day, called Groundhog Day. It is said that on this day, when Phil emerges from his hole, if he sees his shadow, there will be 6 more weeks of winter weather. If Phil does not see his shadow, spring will arrive early. Can the duration of winter really be predicted by a groundhog? Probably not, but the town has a great time celebrating this tradition.
Very good. Now, as you can see here, this is the Pakistani Phil. We said that. Okay. Now, this Pakistani Phil, the groundhog here, I'm talking about the groundhog. Okay. As you can see, I underlined the name of this animal. Okay. And this one, Phil lives in a small U.S. town of Punxsutawney, okay, Pennsylvania, and is cared for by the town's people. Okay. Actually, this Pakistani weight from 4 to 5 kilos. Okay. From 4 to 5 kilos. Okay. Here, and as you can see, on this day when Phil emerges from his hole, if he sees his shadow, okay, if he sees his shadow, what will happen? There will be 6 more weeks of winter weather. So they start to know if the winter is coming or not. Okay, when Phil goes out from his hole and he sees his shadow. Okay, so here we will have about 6 more weeks of winter weather. Okay, very good. Now let's move to the second one. Here we have the gorilla talked about. The name is Coco. Let's see the story of this gorilla.
Coco was a famous gorilla who used human sign language. Coco was taught sign language by psychologist Penny Patterson when Coco was just a baby. Patterson was studying whether gorillas could be taught to communicate. Although the study was only supposed to last a couple of years, Patterson and Coco developed a lifelong bond and worked together ever since. Coco began by learning basic words like eat, drink, and more, and eventually learned abstract ideas such as love, jealous, and shame. It is believed that Coco could sign over 1,000 words, and that she understood about 2,000 spoken words. Coco was also famous for having pet kittens. She was always extremely gentle and affectionate with her kittens.
So here now Coco, when it communicate with a human, it started to what? Okay, begin by learning basic words like eat, drink, and more. And eventually, what happened? Okay, learned abstract. What does it mean, abstract? Okay, here I'm talking about abstract, something that we, for example, we cannot see or hear. Okay, so I'm talking about abstract, even feel. Here, like, for example, love, hate, all of these is called abstract. Okay, this is the opposite of concrete. This is the opposite of concrete. So here, ideas such as love, jealous, and shame, it is believed that Coco could sign over. So here now I'm talking about the sign language. Okay, the sign language. When Coco started to learn this one, okay, he started to learn over 1,000 words. Okay, using signs and with her hand, of course. Okay, and that she understood about 2,000 spoken words. 2,000 spoken words, and she could just understood that. Coco was also famous for having pet kittens. So here, how Coco communicated with the Peterson here, okay, by using the sign language, of course, and by, of course, understanding some words, okay, some understand about 2,000 spoken words, okay. Nice. Let's go to the third one, which is the cat here, okay. Let's see Humphrey. Let's start with the audio, then we will go back inshallah and to understand the story as well.
A mouser is a cat that is kept for the purpose of catching mice. In England, there has been a mouser at the Prime Minister's residence for centuries. The most popular of these cats was a stray named Humphrey, who, in 1989, was the first cat to receive the official title Chief Mouser to the Cabinet Office. His care cost £100 and was paid from the department's budget. It was said to be far cheaper than the fees previously paid to exterminators. Humphrey, who was beloved in the UK, retired in 1997.
Okay, who is Humphrey? Who is Humphrey? Humphrey is a mouser, okay, is a mouser where? He lived, okay, or he is the chief mouser to the cabinet office, okay, to the cabinet office. So Humphrey here is a mouser, okay, catching what? Catching mice. Nice. So in England, there has been a mouser at the Prime Minister's residence, place or home, okay, residence, where the Prime Minister lives, okay, for centuries. The most popular of these cats was a stray named Humphrey. Stray. What does it mean? Okay. Stray, that means the cat here, okay, doesn't has a home, okay, or have home here, okay. So the cat is a stray named Humphrey, who in 1989, okay, was the first cat to receive the official title. The official title. They gave him an official title, which is Chief Mouser to the Cabinet Office. Okay? And what happened? His care cost £100 and was paid from the department's budget. The department's budget. It was said to be far cheaper than the fees previously paid to exterminators. Okay? The men, exterminators, talking about the men who take the mice out of the house. Okay? Humphrey, who was beloved in the UK, retired. What does it mean, retired? Quit off job, okay, and quit the job and goes on vacation, for example, like people, okay, retired in 1997, okay, 1997. The last one, which is the lion, okay, let's see and read with the audio, of course, what is the story about this lion. Let's begin.
One day in 1969, John Rendell and Anthony Burke saw a real live lion cub in a London department store window. Feeling that a lion should not be kept this way, they bought him and took him home to live in Rendell's basement. The lion, whom they named Christian, is said to have been an affectionate and extremely cooperative cat who even used a giant kitty litter box. Christian was pampered. He was brought on drives, strolls through the neighborhood, and even to restaurants. But when Christian grew to almost 200 pounds, 90 kilograms, it was decided that he should be released into the wild. Christian was brought to Africa, where he adapted to life in the wild and eventually became the leader of a group of lions. A year later, Rendell and Burke traveled to Africa to say goodbye. They were warned that Christian would not remember them. However, when Christian saw his old friends, he ran towards them, stood on his back legs, and joyfully gave each of them a long and loving embrace.
Okay, what's the name of this lion? His name is what? Yes? Christian. Okay, Christian. When did Rendell and Burke adopted this lion? When? 1969, as you can see here. Okay, so here they took this lion and they went to the wild, to Africa actually. They brought him to Africa, where he adopted to life in the wild and eventually became the leader. Okay, became the leader of a group of lions. Okay, after 1 year, when he saw Rendell and Burke, the ones who adopted him, okay, traveled to Africa to say goodbye, they were warned that Christian would not remember them. Okay, so however, when Christian saw his old friends, which is Rendell and Burke here, okay, what happened? Okay, so he ran towards them. He ran, so he remembered them. Okay, and stood on his back legs. Okay, and joyfully gave each of them a long and loving embrace. So here now the lion remembered his old friends, which is when adopted in John Rendell and Anthony Burke here. Okay, Anthony Burke. Very good. Now let's go to quick check. Okay, and I want you to answer these questions now. To match the words with their meanings. Okay, let's start with vocabulary. A, match the words with their meanings. Number 1, residence. We talked about this. The Humphrey. Do you remember Humphrey? Very good. Number 2, bond. 3, duration. Number 4, abstract. 5, pampered. And 6, adapted. What about the meanings? Here, adjusted to something new. B, length of time. C, indulged. D, place where someone lives. E, connection between two living things. And F, relating to ideas or feeling. Okay, now you have time to answer all of these, to match these words with their meanings. Are you ready? Let's start. Number 1, residence. We said Humphrey lives in the Prime Minister's residence. Okay, what does it mean, residence? It means D. Okay, place where someone lives. Number 2, bond. A bond is like a communication method or something like that. Connecting. Okay, connecting. So here the answer is E, connection between two living things. Number 3, duration. From time, of course. Talking about time, duration. Okay, so here the answer is B, length of time. 4, abstract. We talked about this, the opposite of concrete. Okay, abstract. And we said that abstract is F, relating to ideas or feeling. Okay, sometimes it cannot be heard or seen. Okay, very good. 5, pampered, and the answer is C, indulged. Okay, and finally number 6, adapted. What does it mean, adapted? When Rendell and Burke adapted the lion. Okay, what happened here? A, adjusted to something new. Adjusted to something new. Very good. Now let's move to B. We have comprehension. Here, answer those questions, or the questions here. We have 6 questions. I want you to answer them. Let's start with number 1. How is Banks Twan Phil said to predict the weather on Groundhog Day? Number 2. How did Coco communicate? We said that earlier. 3. What kinds of words did Coco use? 4. What is the chief mouser to the cabinet office? 5. How did Randall and Burke take care of Christian the lion? Christian the lion. Okay. And final number 6. What happened when Randall and Burke traveled to Africa to see Christian? What happened when the lion saw Randall and Burke here? Okay. Now let's see the answers. Let's start with number 1. Of course, so number 1 and 2 here. How is the Banks Twan Phil said to predict the weather on Groundhog Day? Do you remember the 6 weeks until weather and so on we talked about? Very good. Okay. So here, if he sees his shadow, the Banks Twan Phil, what will happen? There will be 6 more weeks of winter. Okay, of winter. But if he does not see his shadow, then spring will arrive early. Okay, so it depends on the shadow. Okay, the Banks Twan Phil shadow. What about number 2? How did Coco communicate? Okay, so here Coco communicated using a human sign language. What does it mean, a human sign language? It's a language used for deaf people who cannot, for example, speak or talk, okay, and sometimes they cannot hear, okay, so they use sign language with their hands, okay. Let's go to number 3. What kinds of words did Coco use? What kind of words? Yes, so Coco used both basic, okay, and abstract words. We said the concrete and of course the abstract, okay, from love, hate, and so on. The concrete one, that's ones they can see, hear, and so on. Then, what is the chief mouser to the cabinet office? The chief mouser here. It is a cat that lives in the prime minister, of course, in the prime minister residence. Okay, nice. Number 5. How did Randall and Burke take care of Christian? How? So what happened between them? They kept Christian in their basement, in London. Okay, they took him everywhere and pampered him. Okay, very good. What happened then? Number 6. What happened when Randall and Burke traveled to Africa to see Christian? What happened? So Christian remembered them and was very happy to see them when he sat on his back legs, okay, and he started to give them love and embrace and so on, okay. So Christian remembered them and was very happy to see them, okay. And if you want to more practicing on the vocabulary, go on your workbook, page 47. In the workbook, of course, page 47. And you can practice the new vocabulary here we talked about. The residence, we talked about here also about how the chief mouser, what happened to the cabinet, for example, the chief of cabinet, and so on, okay? At the final things here, final slide, we have go back to the objective. We choose Coco's ways in communications. Name a way a human can use to communicate with animals. Conclude the most interesting story. Match the name with the animal from the text. Point out Humphrey's position before becoming the Prime Minister's residence. And compare animals' qualities with human. I would like to thank all of you watching us today, and inshallah I will see you at the next lesson. Goodbye.